Welcome to KRA's The Hub, the official podcast of KRA Corporation. And now get ready to hear workforce topics and trends you need to know on the go.
Welcome back to KRA's The Hub. This is Doug Foresta. Of course, with me is Jonathan Overall from KRA. Also with us today is Jim McShane, Executive Director of the CareerSource Capital Region. And today we're going to be talking about the Workforce Alliance, and you'll learn more about what that is. Jonathan, always pleasure to be with you. Jim, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Likewise, Doug. Jim, we're going to jump right in today. And again, thank you for joining us. Could you walk us through the Workforce Alliance and really expand upon how this has catalyzed the regional partnership within your area?
Sure. It started in 2015. Part of it is our pillars. Once we changed to CareerSource throughout the state, our pillars are collaborate, innovate, and lead. And so I've been close to a state line 3 times in my 3 journeys in workforce development, starting in Indiana and in the middle of Illinois and rural counties, and now here. And I found that, I looked at the travel for people coming into job into Leon County and Tallahassee, and the people traveling out, and I saw there was a lot of back and forth. And also with my local CareerSource next door. So I approached Cheryl Rayberg, at the time the CEO of CareerSource North Florida, and she actually lives in Georgia, so she had worked there too. So the two of us approached the 2 workforce boards that we border with on our state line, and they were very open to starting a collaboration. So it started out as the Florida-Georgia Workforce Alliance, and that lasted for about 5 years. We met in Valdosta most of the time. We did meet in Tallahassee a couple times, but the idea was sharing best practices, knowing who's laying people off and helping each other out across the state line, which we continue to do. And then Georgia's setup is quite different than Florida, so trying to find out where are the strengths and what we both provide and how we can work together. That grew into where we added the Jacksonville area and also Savannah. And then the word got around and we ended up adding CareerSource Chipola, CareerSource Crown, and we added Alabama Works Southeast. So that's in Dothan. So we now have 9 workforce boards. We were doing great until the COVID came, and then things got a little hairy. We did 4 or 5 webinars regionally. There's 76 counties that we cover. And at that time, we also started to work towards the 501c3. We got the 501c3 earlier this year in January. The IRS approved us, and we're based really on a model similar to ours in the Midwest called Midwest Urban Strategies. And that group is all big cities, and we, of course, are almost all rural. So we got a couple big cities. Jacksonville's probably the biggest. We've got Savannah, Valdosta, Albany, Tallahassee, Lake City, and Dothan, and Mariana. Those are probably our biggest cities in our group. And so we did go after an EDA grant a year and a half ago for the first time, trying to get us all together and shoot for that grant. We didn't get it. Of course, they had 525 applications and gave out 35, but it helped us start to realize that there's different levels of understanding in our group based on probably our experiences in each of our states, and that we really have to work harder to get more of the business engagement that we needed to get in order to go after additional grants. So it went that way, and we met earlier this spring for the first time since after COVID in person, and talked about our strategies for the future. We do have a grant application into Georgia that we put in February and have not heard anything yet. They've gone through a lot of transition in Georgia right now, as Florida is too. We're going to add one more county in our area that's coming from my area next door. And so there's a lot of things happening, a lot of moving pieces, trying to keep this thing rolling. We're going to keep trying. We're looking at how do we serve the rural areas, which is most of our region, better, and what kind of best practices are out there.
Thanks so much, Jim. I was reading an article where they were talking to you about the Workforce Alliance, and you mentioned that county lines and state lines shouldn't matter when people evaluate where to work. Can you say a little bit more about the challenges, though, that those boundaries have posed in the past, and then how the Alliance addresses those?
Sure. So part of the issue is all the workforce boards are local regional workforce boards, and they're allowed to spend their money basically for the people that they serve in their county areas. And so it's usually not, even though we do have people that come into our centers from Georgia, it typically isn't something that we would spend our money on. If they needed more training, we'd refer them back to the folks up in Georgia. But that is one of the things that's the advantage now, is that we have warm handoffs. We can actually help people. We get people that come in from Region 6, from Perry, into our area because they work here in Tallahassee. And again, we can serve everybody walking in with at least basic services and make sure we can help them find a job. But when it comes to ITAs and other things that we have to do, there's a limitation because none of us, I'd say all of us and all 9 of us are struggling with dollars, and the fact that the feds continue to reduce our money year in and year out. But it means that we can do a lot of more collaboration between ourselves. We can call up somebody. I can call up Melody up in Colquitt and Jerry up there and tell them, here, we've got somebody that's from your area that would like to try and get some help. They don't know where to go. They happen to come in and talk to us. We can go ahead and give them the information they need so they can get the help they need. And two different, so Florida's got TANF and SNAP and Veterans and Wagner Pizer and WIOA all in our place. But in Georgia, they've only got WIOA, and they don't have TANF and SNAP in their career centers like we do. And Alabama, I think, is pretty much the same way as Georgia on that. It is something that we're learning from each other on what can we do to help you in that end. And right now, there's a lot of emphasis on trying to get people out of Medicaid and into a good job so that they're no longer on Medicaid. We're involved on a couple of levels right now with that, both in Georgia and in Florida. And I think there's some opportunities there that we hadn't seen before. Again, I share that with all of the group. I just sent out a newsletter last week on Friday, so they can all be updated on some of the things that are going on. And again, the more information we can share with each other, we'll make better choices when we have things come up to us.
Jim, you mentioned something that I think is really important when it comes to a regional network, and that is the ability to collaborate and to communicate, especially across the state lines. Walk us through a little bit how that has been a benefit, especially for the businesses and the job seekers that you work with. What's been that impact for your customer with that regional collaboration and ability to communicate?
So that's one of our challenges right now. We know that we have businesses that locate both in Georgia and Alabama and Florida. My vision for what this alliance is going to do is that we could have one person in our business solutions team, if they have centralized hiring, to be able to represent all of us, to go in there instead of 6 different people going to, or 9 different people going to 9 different areas that they have a business in one of their outlets, and not be coordinated in our efforts. So that's one of the things that we've looked at is how do we do that? We've set up a committee that's basically for our business solutions teams among all of us. And again, COVID interrupted a lot, but we're getting back to that now where we can share that kind of information. When you think of it, there's restaurants that go across state lines all the time that are all over the place in our region. And those are the kinds of places that we can make one call, find out where the hiring is taking place. And then if it's in one of our other areas, we can call them up and say, could you approach them? They have a need down here, but can we work and coordinate with them? And that's the vision of how the business solutions team can work across the state line. So we're not having 6 and 9 people calling on a business at one time for the same thing. We need to get more coordinated as a system. And that's, I think, one of the advantages of working together.
Jim, great. This is obviously one of the reasons we want to have you on is so that other workforce professionals across the country and beyond could hear this and all the great work you've been doing. Talk about any key lessons or recommendations that you would have for other regions that might be thinking about doing something similar.
I know from my experience with Department of Labor, they really love these kind of collaborations. That is something that they've encouraged. I used to be in Northwest Indiana, and when I was there, I approached the Chicago Workforce Board, where we border on them, actually, on their area. And I had to laugh because the first time that I went up there to meet the executive director, she thought I was from Lake County, Illinois, and not Lake County, Indiana. So it was something new, but I also did a great collaboration across the state line in the South suburban area of Chicago. Those are things that we all have people that get laid off, especially in that area. We had steel mills that were laying off all the time. There needed to be a coordination. The steel mills were on the Illinois side and the Indiana side. And so that's where I was motivated to try and do some things together. The other thing is economic development certainly is a partner for us. And I found being in leadership both in Northwest Indiana and in the South suburban area with their economic development agencies that they offered the same kind of things with the same names to the businesses to locate in their area. So there was a lot of similarities in what was going on there. But in the end, they all need the talent in order to attract those people there. And I've gotten really involved and have been really involved in economic development now for all my probably 30 some years. And I really see that this is just such a key part is being able to provide the talent. And an example is we've got Amazon here that just is opening up a center, and they're drawing from 50 miles around. So they're drawing from Alabama. They're drawing from our partners up in Georgia too. And so what we did is we worked it out with Amazon that they would also connect with those other Workforce Alliance members so that they could have a hiring fair in their areas, which is what they did. So that's another advantage to the businesses that we can connect them with a broader area of talent than just our own local area and coordinate it with our partners in those areas. That works really well.
That's good. Now, on that topic, Jim, of talent development, could you walk us through some insights that would be beneficial for others that they can take away from your model? Talent development is such an important part of workforce development. How have your strategies with the Alliance really helped to shape your talent development strategy?
Part of it is the fact that we all have ETPLs, our training provider lists that are approved by each local board. Back in, I think 2 years ago in January, it was put out in a TGL by the U.S. Department of Labor that we could use the same training providers if they were approved by another local workforce board in our area. So that meant I could go across the state line. And if there are specialty kind of talent development training that, say, the Georgia technical schools do, but my schools in my area and my universities don't do, yet it's in demand in our area. It's something that I can actually pay for the training in that area. Out in Savannah, there's a nationally known place that does all the training for cybersecurity at the highest level. There's nothing like that around here. And so if we can approve those kind of things, it means I can do a better job for the business community in providing that talent that's trained by providing them someone that can go to a place that the business knows is going to give them the kind of talent skills that they're looking for. And it's all going to skill-based training at this point. We can see that's happening. And so that's another advantage of the Alliance, is that we all can call and find out from each other whether they have a certain training that maybe is in demand by one of our businesses in our area, and yet we don't have somebody training in that area. So that becomes another benefit of the Alliance.
Jim, I want to make sure, I know people are listening to this and they're going to say, where can I find more information? Where should we send our listeners to learn more about the Workforce Alliance?
We're still a nascent 501c3. We do not have a website up and running. We had a temporary one before we changed our name from Florida, Georgia to the Workforce Alliance. We'll be up and running by the end of the year with a website. And we also, in order to increase that collaboration, we're getting into Office 365, and we're going to be able to do Teams and other things that we weren't able to do otherwise. I think it'll grow and we'll do a better job as we learn. But those are things that you really have to look at, is how do you keep the communications going, because we all get lost in our daily work, and it becomes just another added thing, but it can be so much better for us if we do use that connectivity between us all and leverage it for looking for grants that can really, we can hit that rural area better as a group than individually. So
thank you, Jim, again for your time today and just really the innovative insights that you were able to share with our audience. You really brought a lot to the workforce conversation, and we look forward to hearing more about how the Workforce Alliance is developing there in the Florida Southern region.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to KRA's The Hub. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about KRA Corporation, visit www.kra.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.